comes trouble, here comes the danger. Welcome the savior, welcome the Rasta youths. You know fi ask is who, at the general issue we no warning. Job people them a ball, said them tired of mediocre. Evil a go fall when we tried in Ethiopia. Believing from down, cause them life no easy boat. Even Bantan said it's not an easy road. Operation occupy the motherland, calling all soldiers to kind each other along. From creation, he writing a job plan, but chronics can't do it alone. So I'm recruiting soldiers coming from near and far. Right.
I have entitled this episode, or dedicated this episode, to my footballing hero, Diego Armando Maradona. But his passing is sad news, but how much he's left will always be remembered. And we'll touch a little bit more on it. But first of all, let me welcome everyone. I promise that tonight is going to be another uplifting episode of The Bench Meeting. So welcome to the regulars. And if you're listening in for the first time, I do have a very informative guest, someone that I've always admired, young man, made strides for himself quite early in administration. And he has graced me with his presence tonight and has already stirred my thinking process even prior to our discussion. So I'm looking forward, Mr. Richard Berridge. We'll be tuning in with him for the first time through Zoom as well, which is the first time for us here on the Bench Meeting. I'm certainly not for WinFM. I'm sure they've been doing this for some time now. So yeah, let's see how that goes. And so I don't want to go too much through other news other than an update, because you've had a nice little news report earlier. I was listening in on it. Well, I'll touch the main ones. But before we do anything further, I would like to dedicate the next 30 seconds to Diego Armando Maradona. And I've asked Vince to play a little clip as to how I will remember him going forward. So just to give you a little background, I encourage everyone to go and take a little view of that clip. It's his warm-up before a UEFA, what was considered the Champions League today, the UEFA Cup final, in front of a relatively hostile crowd. And he was coming up against a German opposition. Napoli eventually won, but it was the whole arrogance, the artistry, the rhythm, the fire that he inspired. Napoli then, Argentina then, millions and millions of young boys around the world, my age especially. I remember not even having a TV. Oh, we had a TV, but it was one of those TVs with the antennas, and you had to go outside and adjust the antenna to make sure it correctly signal, that kind of thing. But just to see Maradona play in 1984 World Cup, which he eventually won. I mean, everybody talks about the hand of God and everything else, but that pales in comparison to what the fire that he played with, the artistry that he played with, the inspiration that he played with. And he remained true to himself. I mean, definitely a scarred genius, because he had his problems with substance abuse. He had his problems with obviously infidelities, and then he became his substance abuse led to him putting on weight. But Maradona was he went And the fact that he was a poor boy, he grew up a poor boy in Argentina, and he wore that with pride, and he's shown in the face of persons who never thought he would have made it. Persons who even contributed to his demise later on, but he never stood down. He lived his life to the entertainment of the fans. He played his football for us, his fans, for the young boy and girl who wanted to. And West Ham and Manchester United seemingly on a run. Sticking with football, SKNFA over the weekend. We had over the last week, we've had the first 2 rounds of the knockout round, which is called now the Super 6. And the first set of games all played out to 0-0 draws, not a goal scored. So I wouldn't even bother mentioning those games. Those are all 0-0s, right? However, things started to happen over the last weekend. Village Superstars won 3-0 over St. Peter's. St. Paul's, the second runners-up in the table, fell 1-3 to Keon. That's a good result for Keon. And the fairy tale team, Garden Hotspurs, put 2 quick ones in Connery, had them wobbling, and Connery could not recover. So Connery succumbed 2-1. So games are supposed to be tomorrow night and Wednesday night. St. Paul's playing Connery tomorrow night, and the other 2 games will be played on Wednesday. So I think they have about 5 games in total in this round, and it'll be interesting to see now who emerges. I was going to discuss the West Indies tour, but I'm going to prefer to hold that off until we get there. And I'm not going to do any of the NFL tonight. So, because I have him waiting and because there's so much information, I would like to take a quick break. When I come back, I will run through the West Indies tour with Richard on the other line. And from there, we take it for the remainder of the night until we can have no more time. All right? So stay tuned with us, and we'll be back within another minute or so.
And them say, here comes trouble, here comes the danger, sent by the Savior, welcome the Rasta youths. I'm on a start recruit, soldiers for Selassie army. Aye. Here comes trouble, here comes the danger, welcome the Savior, welcome the Rasta youths. You're not for axes who are the general issue in a warning boy, waving the banner red, green and gold. It is such an honor prophecies unfold, discovered on stones, on trees and scroll, and even in the stories that Jesus told. Whoa. Rasta youth must inherit the earth. Can't sit down, Jaja send me for work. Bring the fire in a round, Jaja send me for purge. But I can't do it alone. Rasta recruiting, soldiers coming from near and far, I choose executing. Selassie I works and be Rastafari choose. Here comes trouble, here comes the danger, sent by the Savior, welcome the Rasta youth. I and I start recruit, soldiers for Selassie I army. Hey. Here comes trouble, here comes the danger, welcome the Savior, welcome the Rasta youth. You're not for axes who are the general issue in a warning. Hey. Left or right, the soldiers are gone. Left, right, the soldiers are gone. Hey, could I never throw it down, no boy. Yeah, how we say left, right, the soldiers are come. Left, right, the soldiers are come. Left, right, the soldiers are marching on, boy. How me say, here comes trouble, my friend, and here comes danger. Rastafari send me come. I said we sent by the Savior.
And welcome back to the bench meeting. And I would like to welcome my guest tonight, Mr. Richard Berridge. Rich, you hearing us on the other line there? Well, it seems like I see your mouth moving, which means that you're probably hearing me, but I'm not hearing you yet. Try again. Try again. Vince, there was a period when I heard him when you had asked me to let him speak again, so I don't know what we're missing. Right now, yeah, I'm hearing him now. Rich?
Okay, great. How
Yeah,
are you?
great.
Good
Yes.
night. Good night to you and your listeners.
Good night. Good night. How are things, Chief?
Well, not too bad, not too bad. I was struggling a bit to make it on time for this because we had a little storm here with some rain and power cuts and had a little generator issue. But luckily enough, it was all sorted out 15 minutes ago. So I'm happy to be able to join you and have
Brilliant,
a
brilliant.
discussion.
I'm hoping that rain doesn't come our way and cause any similar disturbance. I did deliberately denied or didn't go into discussing the West Indies tour of New Zealand because I knew all of that would have been entailed in our little conversation here. And I also know that West Indies are currently playing the final T20, and they've started off pretty well. 25 for 1 in the second over is the last update I had. But their performance so far, having lost the first two ODIs, Duckworth Lewis,
20.
first two T20s, sorry. The Duckworth Lewis method, they lost the first one in 15.2 overs, I think by 2 wickets.
Well, it was reduced to a 16 over game. Huh?
Oh, so it was
It was closer than it looked on the scorecard.
on the scorecard.
Well, it was closer than it looked because you probably thought it was a 20 over game.
Yes.
But the third game got abandoned, so the series is over.
Oh,
That score you're looking at is from last night.
okay, so we're no longer moving forward with this one. So it's a 2-0 spat because the second one was a walloping.
Yeah, I think it was a bit disappointing coming off of the first game. I do believe that innings that Pollard played in the first game put us in a winning position.
Yes, it did.
And most importantly, it changed the momentum of the game because I don't know if you had looked at the game live. I actually stayed up quite late to look at it. But the first half of the game, we struggled. You know, we were like 5 wickets down. And you were like, oh, this is looking like a 110, 120.
Yes.
And then Pollard played this magnificent innings.
He did.
Right? I think he ended up with about 75, right? Which pushed us up to 180, right?
Yes.
With finishing strong like that, you really expected your bowlers to come in and with some momentum and really, get us over the line. But I think the bowling was the most disappointing thing from that match. And I think it unfortunately seems to have drifted over into the second game.
Oh, okay.
Look, I don't like to pluck at excuses and so forth. We were just not good enough to beat New Zealand in the series. I think there's a number of fundamental issues that is still plaguing our development and it's preventing us from being consistent. You would see West Indies have a great game today, and maybe next week have the total opposite.
Agreed.
Right, and I do believe in order to get to some level of consistency and long-term sustainability, your foundation, just like with your house, has to be strong enough. Your production line has to be strong enough with regards to the pool of players and the level at which players are being nurtured, right? And that will then allow us to stop using the international level to gain necessary experience. And that is, in a very, very small nutshell, one of the issues West Indies have, right? Too many players are selected.
Break that down for me a little more, in the sense that, because I've seen over the last few years, which I would say up until about 3 years ago, names like Hetmeyer, Puran, Chemo Paul, our boy Larry Joseph got a little recognition from the under 19 World Cup. I was under the impression that there was some sort of growth in terms of the production line. What has sort of stymied or slowed that down?
Well, we've never been short of talent, and I think that's something that and I'm going to come from a different angle with this conversation, because I think most people, when you listen to most talk shows, they begin to focus on the captain and the coach.
Right,
yes,
agreed.
I agree. In a normal situation, you will start there, right? But we've seen over the last 25 years or so, multiple coaches, multiple captains, and the results have almost been the same, with the exception of some T20 success. And obviously the shorter format of the game is better for us, right? With the talent that we have, right? Now, my thing is that we need to look further than the captain and the coach, right?
Okay.
Because we've had these conversations over the last 20 to 25 years, right? Our players are not getting enough experience, expert coaching, and enough quality cricket
Agreed.
to play below the international level.
Agreed.
Right? And that is our fundamental issue. And when you look at all of the other leagues around the world, whether it's 4-day, 50 over, or their domestic T20, we actually have a decent domestic T20 in
Yes.
the CPL.
Right.
Right? But if you would have looked closely over the last few years, there's a lot of overseas players who've been dominating in that tournament. Yes, there have been a few. I mean, you had Brandon King last year, which was a great find. My problem is when we pick up people like Brandon King and others, they don't go through a nurturing process. It's like, yeah, we find the next player and he's just supposed to dominate the world.
On his own.
No, when you find a guy like that, you bring him in and you play him, but then you ensure that he has a pathway to continue to develop.
Brilliant.
And another trend as well is that a lot of these players, when they come in first, so the Hetmeyers, the Bravos, the Kings, and other players, even some of the bowlers, they dominate up front because remember, they're generally unknown to the world, right? After a few games, after a few series, you start to see that they struggle. It's a general trend, right? Yes. Where they've worked them out. And because they are not getting better in their weaknesses, it's like a recycling of the same plan every series.
So once you plan for them, it is easier to figure them out and they're not necessarily making the adjustments. Because
I will continue to question the resources and the support that is given in the regional territories. So, for example, if I get picked for West Indies, I go to England. I might have the first 2 matches might be great. I might have a bad third match.
Right.
When I go home after whatever break is decided, well, I might get 2 weeks off because obviously, I was on tour for a long period. At the end of that 2 weeks, I should start to dig in, not just to say I'm showing up at Warner Park to have a practice session, but I should start to dig into what my specific weaknesses are and how am I going to fix them.
And put a plan in place.
Because, right. I can easily say, yeah, I practiced for the last 2 weeks. Did I practice the short ball at 90 miles per hour that I'm struggling against? Or did I just go and hit some full toss and half volleys, bang it about the park?
Have some friends bowl at me because, you're right,
That's not practice. So we got to look at the quality of practice, quality of training, the quality of the nurturing process, so that when a guy has an issue, I remember Virat Kohli had an issue back in 2011, short ball, right?
Right.
That was our plan to him then, right? And most other nations, you'd see they'll bowl him the short ball. By 2013, late 2012, you dare not bowl him a short ball.
Because he's going to put you away.
Right? Then we had to adjust onto another plan, which was to bowl him outside off stump early because he loves to feel the bat on the ball. So he pushes at the ball a lot. So if you start off early. So the point I'm making there is here you had a player who was going back to the drawing board, not just practicing, but focusing on specifics, getting better. But then teams now, the opposition teams will have to go and find another plan for him.
Yeah.
Right? That's how sport goes. You know what I mean?
In fairness to the guys here, though, is our coaching structure supportive of that type of approach? Because, for example, with Kohli, once the coaches recognize the weakness, or he recognized his own weakness, he would have had to put certain things in place to strengthen it. And part of that would be training and coaching. How is that in terms of our players here?
Well, I think it's a two-way street here. I'm not trying to fully blame the administrators and the coaches, because any professional player should know that, yes, this is my weakness and I need to work on it, right? What I'm saying is that it's like a student-lecturer situation where it takes both persons. The lecturer has to provide certain information, to the students, but then the students still need to put in the work as well to pass the exam.
Agreed.
Right? If you go to a poor school where you don't have good teachers and so forth, then you're starting with a problem there.
Agreed.
It might be more difficult for me, although I may personally take it up upon myself to study. I could struggle in certain regards if the teacher doesn't, engage me as they should. So the problem I think we have is that West Indies success from back in the 70s has always been a natural talent.
Right. Okay?
That was before science was involved, technology, fitness, factors, and so forth. Very different. And I think we have a very, we still have that impression, right, that we're supposed to do well. We did well back then. But the recipe for success back then is very different now.
Agreed.
Right? Just like everything else we do, right? Well, how was a car looking back in the 70s? Very different to how it looks now, right?
Agreed.
And we can open up plenty other analogies. But the point is that we are now, I'm pretty confident now within the last few years that we have started to embrace the fitness, the technology and other components, but we were 20 years behind.
Agreed.
So implementation and rollout will take some time. I don't get worked up over the results now because I know
that the way back up is going to be a long haul anyway.
It's a production line.
Exactly.
We have always focused on the end of the production line, but the process is from putting the chassis in place and all the other components and the wheels and everything. You can't start building a car by putting in a sound system, the best sound system. Right? You can't. Right? And that's what we have always tried to do is at the end of the production line, fire the coach, let's hire this coach. I don't care what coach you bring into West Indies cricket at the end of the production line. You're going to struggle because the end of the production line is as good as all of the parts building up to it.
No, okay, so take me through then in an ideal circumstance, because I know COVID, I know politics, I know there are a lot of different factors that does not allow either the current administrators to execute the way they may want to, or even the works against us in terms of external forces, such as the bigger powers in world cricket. They don't necessarily, as much as they may want to see a good West Indies team, they don't want to see a dominating West Indies team. Right. What sort of measures can we practically put in place to expand the support in building that foundation, and then come up from there?
Well, look, I'm gonna just start right home in our backyard. Okay, it's easy because it's right in front of us. We have a national academy that is non-existent. Right.
Right.
The facility is there. It's a nice facility. It's one of the best in the region. It has lights. Right. Off the bat, I think Guyana, not even Barbados, Guyana, Antigua, St. Kitts are the ones that have lighted nets, right? Which means you can practice into the night.
Okay.
We have 4 turf wickets. We have 4 concrete wickets. So in the event there's a lot of rain and the poor preparation, the batsman can still go on the concrete strips and feel the ball in the ball and still face some good bowling, from the bowling machine, right? We have a beautiful outfield that is there. If you go to Warner Park for the next 2 weeks and log the amount of cricket activity, right? And I'm not talking about anybody showing up to play in a game. I'm talking about development of talent.
Agreed.
When you look at what's happening on the football side compared to the cricket side,
big difference, huge difference.
Chalk and cheese.
Yeah,
chalk and cheese. Right? And obviously, football has a very good structure that is passed down from FIFA. It's funded well, but we have not professionalized the game at the lower levels.
I agree.
Right? That means that this is why a lot of talent around is not getting the opportunity, right? Because the National Academy is non-existent, right? And anybody who would like to prove me wrong, I would love for them to do it, right? You cannot have facilities that is only used to facilitate international and franchise leagues. What happens to the talent? Are we just planning to host games?
Agreed.
Or are we planning to produce Test, ODI, T20 international cricketers? Right? If we want to produce talent, we have to use the academy.
Yes.
We have to have feeder systems where they're in
different
St. Paul's,
communities.
Aon, Sandy Point,
Exactly.
all the facilities are there. The cricket grounds are there. Connery, Molineux. Right? So we need for those facilities.
I'm getting some. I don't know if that's my side or yours.
We're getting a loud buzz.
Yeah.
You want to take a break and let's just reboot?
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Yeah, we can do that. Let's take a quick break and we're coming back.
can see her. Cause every girl here wanna be her. Oh, she's a diva. I feel the same and I wanna meet her. They say she low down. It's just a room and I don't believe them. They say she needs to slow down. The baddest thing around town. She's nothing like a girl you've ever seen before. Nothing you can compare to your neighborhood. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. The way that booty moving, I can't take no more. Had to stop what I'm doing so I can pull her close. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. Damn girl, damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick. Damn girl. Yes, I can see her. Cause every girl here wanna be her. Oh, she's a diva. I feel the same and I wanna meet her. They say she low down. It's just a room and I don't believe them. They say she needs to slow down. The baddest thing around town. She's nothing like a girl you've ever seen before. Nothing you can compare to your neighborhood. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. The way that booty moving, I can't take no more. Had to stop what I'm doing so I can pull her close. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. Damn girl, damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick. Damn girl, damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick. Damn girl, damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick. Damn girl, damn, you's a sexy chick, a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick. Damn, you's a sexy chick.
And you feel me? I'm better than that. I'm not gonna hate on you in the magazine. I'm better than that. I'm not gonna compromise my Christianity. I'm better than that. You know I'm not gonna dish you on the internet. Cause my mama told me better than that. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I'm a survivor. Keep on surviving. I'm a survivor.
Everybody beware, you better.
Are we back on? Rich, you there with me?
You're loud and clear now.
All right, great. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You had one or two little technical difficulties on our side. I wanted to pick you back up on the facilities discussion because the first thought that came to my mind was football. The reason football has that sort of universal appeal is because you could make anything into a football. You could kick a coconut in some instances and make a football out of it. Cricket, and I say this because I remember trying. Jaden was pretty infused with it growing up. True to the Patriots and otherwise, still is very enthused with it, but more from a fan side now. But equipment became a bit of an issue as he grew older. You needed to have the full gambit as you started to get more into it. Do you think that is a challenge, and how is that part of? Do you have a strategy for overcoming the challenges presented by such?
No, I mean, I think there's opportunities to get equipment if you're serious about. I might say this very loosely, but I mean, locally, they've had players who played for the Leeward Islands. Players who, well, obviously from Nevis who played for West Indies. I do believe that any serious cricketer coming through will get access to some level of gear. They may not get the perfect gear that they want.
Okay.
But
it's accessible to every boy and girl kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the grassroots program used to take care of that, right? Where any talent you identify would have actually gotten a kit. Over the last few years, that I think Digicel used to fund that program when they were sponsored of cricket. I think that ceased about 3-4 years ago. But again, talent that comes through always gets some sort of assistance with regards to that. But I just want to finish that point I was on because I don't want the wrong impression to be had about what I was trying to say.
Right,
because I think firstly, the local association has made some good moves recently because we were struggling even just to have cricket activity, right? So they had a development tournament. I believe it was under 17. Could be under 15 tournament.
Under 15 last week or so, week before, yes.
I think it ended, but it was going on for some time, which is great initiative. Then I think there were some other games played between St. Kitts and Nevis. Some might have been over 35.
I think Keith Atherton had a competition going on, a T20
Right, there was a T20 tournament as well.
Right.
That is great. But the problem I have is that whenever you're playing a tournament or you play a match, that is your stage.
Right.
My problem is with the practice and preparation component.
Okay.
So coming out of those tournaments, have we identified talent?
Agreed.
Have we identified talent that we will now take and nurture? Or are we just waiting for the next tournament to come around for the talent now to play cricket again? And they're pretty much the same. There's a year older. But they haven't gotten any better because they don't have any expert bowling coach or batting coach that is saying, okay, for you to get better, these are the things you have to do, and we have to do this for the next 6 weeks. So the same talent you saw this year, I'm pretty sure if the system doesn't change, next year the kids will be a little taller and they look a little older.
Yep.
But the cricket may be the
cricket
same,
hasn't improved.
especially those with fundamental issues.
Agreed.
You may have some that may get better just from practicing by themselves. But we have to fast track that talent much quicker than we're doing. And we must not just leave the talent there and hope next year the person is better.
Yep.
And that is the problem we have. So I'm not knocking any of the cricket activity that's been going on. That's fine. That's the stage. What I'm knocking is the preparation and what happens in between tournaments.
Agreed.
In Barbados and Guyana, you still have, and even Jamaica and Trinidad to an extent, you still have the club structures where people go to the clubs. You have the off-the-field activity, of course, where you get food, drink, dominoes, and that sort of stuff. But there's still a cricket component.
Yes.
A lot of these clubs still practice.
Yes, they do.
Still have youth programs. And it's a feeder system. You have your youth programs within the clubs, and then you pick the best youths from the national youth tournament to be part of a national academy for the next year.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned Barbados, because I think part of what happens with Barbados as well too is that there are a number of different tournaments hosted amongst the clubs throughout the course of the year. Do we have such club structures in place? And if so, is there are there regular tournaments that maybe the general public just not aware of?
They have the T20 tournament every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, there are probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 clubs It could be a little more, right? That are well established in terms of, I think Molyneux, Keon, Sandy Point. There are one or two others. Can't remember off the bat. But what I'm saying is we need to have at least 8 clubs that are well put together, well run, just like football.
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
Everybody can always be better, but football has a decent system. They have a decent foundation,
Agreed.
right? Where the clubs are organized, they're branded, they have the jerseys, they have, it's organized. They have the executives, they get funding, they get sponsors, and I'm sure there are at least 8 of them, maybe more, right?
Agreed.
I'm just talking off the bat here. Cricket, we deserve to have at least 6 to 8 solid clubs that has a home. So during the week, if you're part of the St. Paul's Club and you live in St. Paul's, you go down to the St. Paul's Stadium, which is a lovely facility, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen it. But
Yes, I've seen it. Yes.
It was upgraded for the World Cup as a practice facility. Beautiful facility. You shouldn't have to come to town during the week, and you have everybody in their pods practicing, Sandy Point, St. Paul's, KR, Molyneux. That is how you grow a pool of quality players. And then on the weekend, whether you have cricket going on or you're part of the National Academy, right? Then you come to the main center if you're part of that group. But there must be a pathway, right? And what happens is we get a lot of these under 13 talented players coming through. And when they get to 15, 16, because there's no serious club cricket going on, we lose the talent. And then you'd find parents saying, well, I can't find any cricket for my child to play. They graduate from the under 13 program. There's no cricket. There's no club cricket going. How are we going to get them to the Leewards team now? There's a big gap.
Yeah.
And until we plug that gap, plus, other gaps along the way.
Yeah, because it almost happens after certain, as you said, they emerge. Then if they don't have they don't maintain that standard like a Lara or a Gale or somebody, you just see them disappear for a few years, and then coming down toward the end of their career now, when they find some level of consistency of form or the experience starts to teach them how to adjust, then you see them starting to really play the cricket that we knew they could have played since they were 23, 24.
So when we professionalize, or at least start to do some semi-professional activity below, right? Then you're going to start to see better talent coming through. When you get better talent, you get more competitive games, you get better quality games at regional level. When you get better quality games at regional level, then the players going up to the international level will be
better trained.
Better developed, of course. Exactly. You know what I mean? But when you're not challenged below, and the numbers are there. When you compare our 4-day system in terms of the output, how many hundreds are scored, how many guys average over 50, average over 40, and you compare that to most of the other top 8, it's chalk and cheese, right?
I never looked at it like that.
India had about 100 scored in their domestic 4-day competition. Either it was 2 years or 3 years ago, and we only had 21. Right? And the volume of games wasn't that vast. They played a few more in India, right? When you see the amount of players that was averaging over 50, you know what I mean? And even in places like Australia and South Africa, which are more bowler-friendly conditions, their batting stats in their regional tournaments were far better than ours. And remember, this is a level where everybody picks their best squad to go and play Test cricket. So if you have a better quality pool that you're choosing from, you're obviously going to be ahead of me.
Exactly.
And when it comes to consistency, you would see England and Australia. They can't win every game. They're still human beings. But if they have a bad series now, more than likely the next series or two, they're gonna come back, right? And that's how strong teams
perform. That's how they go through their ups and their downs. Agreed. Now tell me this then.
Not like 20 and 30 year. Downs.
So tell me this then. So St. Kitts Nevis, what would be the first step? Because obviously we need to start somewhere.
Yeah.
What would be the first step in terms of?
First step is that we, as a group, government, Department of Sport, Cricket Association, have to re-establish the National Academy.
Okay.
The Cricket Association, because this is their responsibility, has to say, look, we need to start with 6 clubs. Let's don't go to 8.
We have Rich, just bear with me 1 minute. We have a caller who's coming in.
Sure.
We'll ask the person to call back. Well, go ahead in the meanwhile, Richard. Sorry about that.
Right. So we need to establish at least 6 clubs that are operating with an executive. They have identified a home ground that is theirs where they can train. They must have a youth program. Right?
The call is returned.
Sure.
Hi, good night. Welcome to the bench meeting.
Good evening, guys. Very interesting program. How are you doing, guys?
Pretty good so far. Thanks for calling in. You're actually my first caller. Can I have your name, please?
Man, you know this caller with the little boy with the play cricket.
Oh, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Crook.
Crook. Curtis
Yes,
Crook.
yes, yes.
How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And I'm so happy to be calling in. And you know what? I have the product. I have a little girl at the age of 4. She's also bringing over hand and bowling.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
4 years. I have a little boy who is 6. He's also into cricket. And you know the 14-year-old, the 15-year-old.
Yes.
So I have the product. What we need is to help us to finish.
Yep.
The biggest problem around here, my friend, a lot of people, the guy said about football. People are into football. A lot of people are fine and not into the cricket. They're all about the big show. These are the problems we're having, the challenges. It's all about, for some people, winning. It's not about helping the youth. It's about winning. Then there's an incident some years ago where you had a youngster who was supposed to play for village school. Does not go to the school, but that's what the system set up. And if I tell you guys, when the guy showed up to play, he was denied playing. Saying this to say that, I remember Colin went to St. Martin some years ago. You have a guy who played for the West Indies on the 15 team from St. Martin. Played with Colin in St. Martin at the age of 10. Didn't live St. Martin, but it was a tournament and they asked Colin to play. I'm just trying to show you the difference. The youngster went on to make West Indies on the 15 team. Because I met him in England at the first day-night test match. I'm saying the flip side now. The same youngster here, there's a different youngster in Sinkers now, who should have been playing for another school, not because he was not going to school. He was just allowed to play. And up to went to the minute the people in charge, Wilshire went on and did not let the guy play. The same guy did very well in the finals, I think last weekend, who made 50-something in the team now.
Oh.
The guy cried the day. All I'm saying, our system and our structure, the people need to show that they love the cricket. They love the sport. We have a lot of college in cricket, you know. I'll just tell you guys, I have a 4-year-old little girl who is actually bringing over she hand and bowling.
But
Where
Mr.
can
Crook,
she go from there?
Mr. Crook, quick thing. So what about Richard's suggestion of a group, some well-meaning groups of gentlemen trying to put together cricket clubs under the
What I'm saying, but these things have been trying for years. But what I'm saying, as the guy is saying, what he's saying making sense. We've been trying, other people have been trying, but what I'm saying, to get the help from, as he said, football as a structure, right?
Right.
Football also has who in charge? The guys that who run the football.
Yes. Like it has an executive and everything else. Right. Correct.
Right, these people, good, right. Cricket have the same. But what we're saying, are the cricket getting the same kind of help in terms of why you guys are saying with the football?
I arguably not. Arguably not.
Right. So what I'm saying is not that the club not willing. Man, I got to applaud the association for having the T20 tournament and the rep. But what I'm saying though, for years and years and years and years and years, we've been hearing the same thing. And a lot of the kids are leaving the cricket and going to the football because they feel they're not seen anywhere in the cricket because of the structure. How they're going to come through?
Makes sense.
Curtis, let me ask you a question while I have you here.
Yeah.
Right? No, I don't believe in reinventing wheels. Okay, when something is working, you can pull ideas from it. You put some finishes on it, and you go with it. We have 3 products in Sinkits right now that works. You have high school athletics, right? That works.
Yeah.
You have football franchise. You know, the Newtown, St. Paul, St. Peter's, etc., Keon, etc., right?
Yeah.
That works. right? Because it brings out quite a lot of people. If there's interest, the teams are branded, they have their jerseys, people follow it. You also have, from the cricketing front, high interest in CPL, right?
Agreed.
Although that is a franchise, people come to the park to look at it, right? Now, if we have a high school league that is piggybacking on the same schools that participate in the athletics, and you do some basic marketing, and you play the games at Warner Park in the night under the lights, just like football, play under the lights in the evenings, you are going to generate some interest
Agreed.
in coming out to watch. Because when Sandy Point playing against Washi in a T20 match, right, and you market it properly, that is going to generate interest.
People
okay?
will come.
Of
And
course,
I with
people
you,
will.
what that's what he's saying. Right, I with you 100%. It's like, okay, the same thing. Village Coke have a football team, right?
Right? Well,
Instead
yeah,
of
they have
Village
one, I'm
Coke-
assuming.
Right. What I'm saying, instead of Village Coke coincide with the cricket team, they're fighting against each other.
Mhm.
Oh, so
Yeah, but
you're
not
saying
the same way.
so what you're suggesting is that the sports clubs which
Yeah.
and which subdivides into different disciplines, you're not getting the support.
Right.
But we
Hampton
can
Cricket
find ways
Club.
to mediate those situations.
The Hampton Cricket Club.
Mm.
Who coincide with village. They found one, the Nutong. You have Nutong cricket team, you have Nutong football team.
Right.
So they should be basically singing the same song. It's just like West Brazil and them. Brazil wear one color, everybody can do the same thing. Jamaica look at they do the same thing. You understand what
Right.
I'm saying? Right, I'm saying Newton football and cricket team should have the same kind of operation. But then you got the football fighting against the cricket. Sometimes we already practicing and the football don't come aside off the field. There's nobody, there's a, in fairness to these, there's an imbalance with,
Structure,
Hello?
because in any decent structure, you would schedule practices and you schedule fields and you put them.
right. So what I'm saying, and what you're saying making sense too. But on the other hand, I'm talking about the junior level now.
Okay.
I'm saying more needs to be done. I'm saying we're letting the talent in the Caribbean just fade away. You could recall
Yeah.
Mr. Berridge, the guy who won the World Cup for India on the 19 some years ago. That same Mr. Boy, if you go on YouTube, you see him at the age of 15 with his father on the World War. And India spot him from long time.
Yeah.
But the question I'm saying, as I just said to you, I have a 4-year-old girl who's taking out and bowling. Where can she go?
Yeah.
So if I'm
Well,
not
she should be
helping-
going to the academy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but what I'm saying, you know, we don't have a structure for things like that at that age.
Right. Because
So, yeah,
guess
that's
what?
what
That
I'm
might be a
saying,
talent waiting to be an international star. But
That's
if we
what I'm
don't
saying.
nurture it, she cannot
Right.
reach there.
Instead of we saying, well, okay, as I said again, look at the gymnastic girl. She was young, let's pass her, hey, you come. Man, you're going to 1 in a million, we're going to have the natural talent. It's not easy
Correct.
for somebody to bowl. You understand the bowling when it comes to cricket.
Mhm.
And for you to actually do that. So what I'm saying, in them bigger countries, for some reason, they have the natural talent. And that's what they do. They pull it early. Hey, hold on, I spot that. Look at Archer. Archer shouldn't be playing for England.
No.
True.
Right.
Very, very true.
But England spot that.
Yep.
And they grab it. So what I'm saying, you have a 4-year-old, you have a lot, let's just name the fact of my mind. There's a lot of kids in Sinkit. There's 3 brothers in Molyneux. All back, left, ball, left. But the point I'm saying, they should be playing cricket constantly, all the time. Playing among the peers. You have a tournament just finished, you start again. So you constantly have them playing and keep playing and competing. And not only that, going to a academy, like, okay, they're going to school, but you're going to go, you lead players. Look, these are the players we're watching. We're going to help the other one, but these are the ones we're ahead of everybody. So here we're going to do. We're going to work on these maybe once a week.
Yeah.
We're going to work on certain things. We're going to do, there's so much things you can
But
do. Example, Mr.
we-
Berridge. A youngster should make things with cricket team and can't tie.
Go ahead,
You
Richard.
understand? The little-
Go ahead,
Hello?
Richard. You're making a point. Sorry about that, Curtis.
Yeah,
No, I
go
said
ahead.
we are fortunate, right? Because I know in most of the other islands, right, we are fortunate to have lights in our cricket academy. We are fortunate to have lights on our cricket field. Yes, a lot of people have lights, but you go to St. Lucia and other places, you see how difficult it is to turn those lights on, right? We should be having programs, whether it's once a week, twice a week, depending on school schedules, where your under 13 program training, your best under 13s must come out of like the tournament we had the other day. The selectors should have picked the top 20 kids from that tournament who would have started a fresh year in the academy training twice a week with specific programs to develop their talent.
But that's what I'm saying.
Those kids should not be just left to go home now and wonder, okay, what I can do now? I could play cricket on the weekend. I wonder if I could find a net or somebody to go to.
Right. But that's what I'm saying all the time. That's what I'm saying. Should be happening.
The National Academy is going to need a collaboration between the Cricket Association and the government, because remember, unlike football, who has a paid executive, right? They have high performance director, they have technical director, they have office staff that are well paid for by the funds they receive from FIFA. The Cricket Association, to be fair to them, has a challenge. I think maybe they might have one person hired, right, who runs the office, but they don't have a full executive that is paid full time to run cricket. So I want to make sure before we end the program, I want to give kudos to the entire executive, starting with President Philip, because I think they've been working hard to put on the cricket that they have.
The tournament was wonderful. In fairness.
Right.
I mean, you could see that they're trying. You could see they're trying.
We have to come now together.
We just need more. We just need more. And I think the biggest problem to Mr. Berridge, a lot of people does not do the work. Meaning that there's people assigned to do certain things, and it's like the dedication to some people. I understand how it is, but for me,
remember, it's voluntary too, eh?
That's what I'm saying. By what I'm saying. Well, if you know, that's what I'm saying to you. When you're gonna volunteer, you must be able to dedicate yourself. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, I don't really study, but at afternoon time for the past year, I got some kids come here at afternoon in the back of my yard, and I help them with a little playing the cricket and do a little practice, do a little catching, do a little thing. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
Even when the youth them playing, right? I go all over the place looking at these kids. That's why I could tell you, all the guys in the back that play for West Indies. I mean, he know me from playing for West Indies under 15. Because of being around the cricket. I mean, as I said to you, when I had the first Benay test match, he gave me tickets to go watch the game. I'm saying a lot of people don't dedicate themselves to come out to really, because it's all about the play. Check when we got CPL. You see the amount of people that be in the park because of the thing. But when you have the regular normal cricket league, I'm saying the people supposed to be doing the work does not come. They're not willing to help because they're not free. Because there's a lot of obstacles. As I say, the Cricket Association, to be honest with you, they're trying their very best. There's some people that are really working hard, but it's still a lot more could be done.
But my thing now is, yes, thanks, Curtis.
No problem.
Take care, Curtis. Thank you very much for calling in.
We have to find a way now, Ken, to plug the gap. Okay, we agree. The Cricket Association has tried with the limited resources they have. We have a Department of Sport. We have an academy that has been built that initially had a board, right? There's a lot of funds that is used up every year to hire coaches and other persons within the Department of Sport. We have to find a partnership between the Cricket Association and the Department of Sport to reestablish that academy, right? To reestablish use of the facilities around the island as a feeder system.
Agreed.
Right? There's a lot of there's groundsmen and other support staff that are hired by the government full time. Right? So there's certain support levels already in place, but we are missing the coordination
of all these different aspects of almost like a national program.
The other is not doing the rest, and I think it's time to break the ice on that conversation.
What I want, can I ask Richard that we continue this as a part 2 next week? I don't know how your schedule. Yeah, because I think there's a few questions that I took a note of that I would like to dissect some more. And I think that it would do us well to sort of start, because I think we can have a conversation. And what I will do too, if possible, I don't know if you mind, is maybe we could invite somebody from the Cricket Association, Mr. Phillips or something of the sort, and coordinate rejoin the Zoom meeting, and we could perhaps forego the news to a certain extent and just expand a lot more.
If we continue this conversation, I'm pretty sure at the end of it, we're gonna achieve some. We're gonna achieve some stuff. Some real goals. And I really want to ensure that, we really get this thing restarted. Even if we have to invite other persons, whether it's in government, in the Department of Sport and so forth, let's bring them in and let's get this conversation going.
Okay.
How can we make this happen? We cannot put all the blame, we cannot put all of the onus on the Cricket Association because they have limited resources. They have been doing well with what they have.
And blame sharing really doesn't help grow anyway.
I'm just talking about what is missing. I'm not blaming anybody, right?
Yeah.
But we have to talk about what is missing and we have to say, okay, these are the issues. How can we fix this? If we have an issue in the village where the football team don't want to embrace the cricket team and so forth, let's sit down and try and mediate the situation. We can't leave it to them to work it out.
Yes. You
know what I mean?
And see if it's a resource issue or something deeper that can be resolved with a little conversation. All right, so what I'm going to do as of tonight, I'm going to make the appointment and have the listeners tune in again next week. We will continue this conversation with Mr. Berridge. Richard, thank you very, very much. I knew it was going to be enlightening. It's so much I've got to unpack. And I'm going to come back again next week, and I'm going to really hope that you can be here with me again. And what we can do is we'll reach out to somebody from the Cricket Association. As I said, let's start the conversation, and I think good things can come out of it.
We've been looking at the local scene, and I think I want to focus there first, because these are the broader conversation regionally, because each territory has their own challenges. Right? So this could end up being a series of discussions, which I look forward to.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much for being here tonight. And I thank you all the listeners. Thanks, Curtis, for calling in. I have to find a way of rewarding you as my first caller. And I hope we can hear from you again next week going on, and other persons who will be willing to call in. Thanks for the additional time, Vince, and the production team on the back end. And I want to say good night and thank you for tuning in to the Bench Meeting.
Paint it, tile it, improve it. Your walls, paint it. Your floors, tile it. Your home, improve it. Huge savings at the Hoswas Building Center. Paint it, tile it.